Okay, today I'm giving a brief overview of the use of these Mac computers. Right now, my Mac is actually set up a little bit different than yours. My dock is set up different. You can see my desktop's full of stuff. I still got to clean up a lot of it from last semester. But either way, listen carefully, follow along, and I'll show you some of the basic features and things you need to know. And the differences that'll be on your Mac, I'll mention some of those too. We'll start with the most obvious. Over on the right, this here is called the dock. And right now, don't actually click on everything, but just bring your cursor over there, and you can start anywhere you want on the dock. And if you just drag the mouse head without clicking, it'll show you the names of all the programs on the dock. Now, your programs are in different order than mine, but some of the most common things on here is we have 3 web browsers. We have Google Chrome, we have Apple Safari, and Firefox. They're all good web browsers. The only recommendation I have between them is if you're doing Google stuff like Google Apps, it's usually I do that in Chrome because occasionally there's a feature in Google Apps that'll only work in Google's Chrome browser. But most of the time you can use any of the browsers for that. We got the Microsoft Office software on here. That'd be Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. And for those who don't know, you can open and edit any Word, Excel, or PowerPoint document on here, even if it was made on a Windows computer. Okay? So if you go back and forth for some reason between another lab or another computer, and you got files in Word, Excel, or PowerPoint that were made on a Windows, Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, no problem. You just open it like normal, edit it, hit save, and it works just fine. And you can do the opposite too. Make them on a Mac, share them on a Windows. Completely cross-platform. We have some Apple programs on here like iTunes, Pages, which is kind of like their version of Publisher, Keynote, which is like the Apple version of PowerPoint, Photos, which is for storing and organizing photos. We'll be using some of these programs for various things this semester. Of course, the iMovie software would be one of the major software we use in this class. That's for video editing. We're also going to be doing some in GarageBand, which is for audio editing. It's a lot of fun to go in there and make music using something called loops. And GarageBand, iMovie, Photos, and that they all come free on every Mac. Now, there are versions of those programs you can get for Apple devices like iPhones and iPads, but they're not the full-featured version. Does that make sense? So if you hear of an iMovie for a phone or for a tablet, it is iMovie and is for editing the same, video, but it's not the same full-featured version you have on a regular Mac. We also have the Adobe Creative Suite. The Creative Suite is all professional level software. It spans a variety of areas. We have Photoshop. We have Dreamweaver. That's for web design. We have, I'm just going to go over a few of these. Adobe Animate, we'll probably do a little in here. It's for making animations. Adobe Premiere Pro, we're going to get into at least somewhat this semester. That's what the pros use for video editing. So we'll do iMovie first and then get into Premiere Pro. After Effects, we use it for making the opening titles on HCTV, but you can use it for all kinds of other video effects and that. Again, professional level software. I won't go into all these other ones are, but there's a variety, Adobe Illustrator and stuff in here. So there's fantastic software. It's what the pros use. By the way, these Macs happen to be about going on just under 2 years old, about a year and a half old. So we got pretty good equipment in here. I'm not going to go over all these other little programs on here, but there's some other options on here too. Okay, now up to, we'll start at the very top left corner. Click on the little picture of an apple in the top left corner. Now that menu there is one you're going to use for logging out. If we need to put the computer in sleep mode, like when we're watching a video or something, you'll put it in sleep mode there. If we were doing something where you need to restart or shut down, that's where you do it. So that's what that's used for. So the most common thing you'll probably do on there is either put it in sleep mode or log out. In this class, we usually don't shut down because other class come in after us. The Finder, By the way, if you don't see Finder here, if you see, here's one thing unique on a Mac. Let's say I opened up Safari like we did a little while ago. And then a lot of Windows users, they're used to doing this. They hit the little close button here in the browser, and they think, okay, I just closed Safari, it's quit. No, it's not quit. The window's closed, but it's not quit. How do I know that? I see Safari right there. See, all these menus are still Safari. Okay, now if I click the desktop, like just click like that, it goes away, but it's still open. How do I know it's open? I look over here at the icon, I see a little dot next to it, and it is still technically open. Now, if I want it to be open, maybe I'm going to come back to it in a little bit or whatever, no problem. But if I don't want it to be open, maybe it's the end of the block and I would like you to quit your programs before you log out, then click on it and then go up to where it says Safari. And on a Mac, it's not called exit, it's called quit. So you just go to quit. Now that actually quit the program. Now, if we had several programs open, you need to get to the Finder. All you do is like minimize the windows or move them out of the way, click the desktop, and Finder should appear. Now, what is the Finder? The Finder keeps track of all your files on the Mac. The Finder is something you do not close. It's just always open. You really don't think about much, but in case you're curious, that's what the Finder is. Now, when you're in this mode here where it's just Finder, the few things you might want to do, if you pull down the menu for Finder, and by the way, when I do this stuff, you're welcome to click it too. That's where you can go to empty your trash, okay? And then there I did that, and I'm going to click empty trash. Whoop, there goes all my stuff in the trash. The file menu is one of the ways you can make a new folder. And I think you guys know about making folders to put stuff in. You click that. Now, if you notice, it creates a new folder, and it says Untitled. Now, if you don't touch anything or click anything, the Untitled part is highlighted automatically. So you can start typing right away, and it will replace the Untitled folder with whatever you type. So I might put like DV class first block. Okay, I just did that down here in the middle here if you missed that. And then when I'm done typing that, I hit return. And as you probably know when you're working with folders, you can put the tip of your cursor in the name and click on it. Now sometimes it'll do it right away like it just did for me. Sometimes you gotta do it 2-3 times. But when it highlights in here, you can either delete, or if you just wanted to edit something, maybe you spelled class wrong or something, you want to click your cursor in there and just do the normal editing type stuff, you can edit your folders there. You can make folders. You can make folders on your desktop, which is, quite frankly, for simplicity, I often tell students, just drag it to your desktop. I'm going to be sharing video files and things with you this semester, and the desktop is a fine place to save. In a little bit, I'll show you some other places on the Mac, but most of the time, you're going to probably want to just use the desktop. So you can make folders as needed. You make folders inside folders. Now, if you want to delete this folder, I just did a right-click, and I'm going to go move to trash. Now, if I'm on the desktop here and I want to make a folder, that's another way I can do it. I do a right-click, and there I can click New Folder. So it's just a menu that pops up when you put your cursor there. Do a right-click. It's kind of a shortcut. Okay? I'm not going to, there's most of this stuff right in here we don't need to go into right now. On the Go menu, they'll take you to certain stuff on your Mac. Most of the time, we don't need to do any of this. Applications is where all the programs actually are. They have something called Home. It brings up a bunch of folders. A lot of these are pre-made folders on your Mac. They just that's where they store your iMovies and other stuff you do. When we do that stuff, I'll talk about it when we start doing it, but there's default folders for a lot of that stuff that they're usually the best to use. They do have a Documents folder on here that you can put stuff into. Now, here's one thing that's a little bit confusing. I'm going to close this for a moment. You have an icon on your desktop, and I don't have the same icon, so I can't open it up here. But it's got your username on it. Do you see an icon that's got your username? Double-click that. Go ahead and double-click that. I would demonstrate here if I had it, but I don't. Now, when you open it up, I'm going to see if I got something close to it. Okay, this isn't exactly the same thing, so I can't really do the same thing. Teachers have a different account. But I just do it from memory here. Okay, when you open it up, I'll pretend these are the folders you guys got. I know one of them you got in there is called Documents, correct? Okay, here's what's a little bit confusing. When you're on the Windows computers in the building and you're using stuff and you save it to documents, which I think they have a documents folder on the desktop for that, it's also set up to go straight to this folder. This here, don't look at mine, but look at yours. This is what you're looking at here is called, I'm gonna call that your school server folder. Anything you put in there you can access from any computer in the building. Notice I said building, I didn't say web. It's not like Google Drive where you can get to it from anywhere on the web. It's anywhere on our network. So if you're on a Windows computer, you're on a Mac, you can put stuff in there and save it. But here's the thing I want to emphasize. The documents folder that's pre-made in there, that'll probably fill up with stuff you do on Windows computers, if in fact you use Windows computers. But that is not the same documents folder that's on the Apple Home up here. Okay, they have the same name, but they're not the same folder. So if you put stuff in the Apple documents folder, you see where I'm going with this? It's only going to be on the computer you're sitting at right now. End of story. You won't find it if you go to a Windows lab and start looking for it. So if you got a Word document or something like that, don't put it in the Apple documents folder. If you open up this icon and you find your documents folder on there and you drag, now you don't have to drag all the way to documents folder. You can just put it in the open area of that window. When you open up that icon, you don't have to put in one of those subfolders. I forget what the names of your other subfolders are, but there's like 3 of them in there. So you can drag stuff here, you can make new folders, do whatever you want. But that is your server folder. Now here's what I'm going to ask you what not to do there. When we make iMovies and things like that, there's a default storage on the Mac. We do that. Now if you want to export a version of your video to like an MP4 file, which I'll talk about more when we get into that, you can put that in here. But we don't save the entire iMovie file here or the entire GarageBand file. Those files are too big to save here. Plus, our network's not set up to work with that on here. If you want to share an exported edit, that's okay. Now, that'll make more sense when we start getting into that and I explain it further. But this here is your school server folder. Like I said, yours looks different than this, but you can drag stuff there. So when you want to share files between computers or just back it up, that's one of your options. Okay? Then MM Lab, that is my server. I have a server called MM Lab. Right now, you do not have any permission to go into it. And the only reason I say that is because there's no reason to go in there. So occasionally I put files in there I share with people for, on individual projects and that. When the day comes that you need something in here or need to submit something here, I will tell you and you can put stuff in there. But right now I don't want people monkeying in there because here's what happens. If I see you in there and a file were to disappear, which rarely happens, but it has happened, guess who I think did it? The person I saw in there that shouldn't have been in there. So just don't go in there until the day comes I tell you to go in there. Now the most common things we're going to use this for is I set up submit folders sometime for like submitting video projects, and occasionally I use this to share video with you. So when the time comes I need to share it with you. Now if there's something comes up and you're not sure if you can go in there, just ask me. Say, Mr. Rio, can I go in there for something? If you need to share something between each other, let's say you're working in a group or doing something in class and you need to share a file between each other, clear it with me first because I want to know what people are doing in there. One time I caught someone using it to cheat, so if you're in there and you don't have permission, then I suspect you're trying to cheat. So that's why there are rules about that. Okay, now you might say, Mr. Rio, why don't you just get this locked up like no tomorrow so kids can't do anything in there? Well, that defeats the whole purpose of it. I could get this locked up like no tomorrow, but then it's a huge hassle to unlock it when you need to use it. So I'd rather leave it open and just say don't go in there until I tell you to or you ask me. And if there's a reason I can't think of and you want to use it, just tell me, and most of the time it's not a problem whatsoever. Okay? So that's the 2 network things that come up. There's another one that comes up called HS, correct? Okay, HS is the student share. I have to do something special to open it in mine because it doesn't normally open. Okay, we're going to use HS on occasion. That's the same student share folder you'll find on any of the Windows computers in the building. Now, this is probably a good time to show you the views. Go ahead and double click HS. Now, I'm not sure if this comes up the same on yours, but this is a good time for me to show you the view options here. When you ever get a window like this that comes up, and I don't know, does yours look like this right now up on top? Maybe it doesn't. Okay, well, I'll show you this on another thing here then. Well, I guess I can show you here because you'll see it eventually. Okay, there are 4 views that come up often. Maybe they're not up for this particular window, but they'll come up often. One view, the first one, I call it just the icons. You see the icons or whatever's in there. The second view over is a list, and it's in alphabetical order. When you have a lot of stuff in a folder and you're trying to look for it alphabetically, this is the best one to use. So if I were to go to HS like I am right now, I like this one because if I need to go find something, I can find it real fast. Now, what are you going to be looking for in HS for this class? Well, let's just scroll down and see what makes some sense. Let's start with Mr. Rio's last name. Oh, Rio. There's a bunch of folders. Now, which one might be this class? Oh, maybe Rio DV class? Now, there's another one we may use in here sometime called Rio video files. Every now and then I get video files where for various reasons I'm using them in more than just the video class. Maybe I used them in the multimedia class too, or the web class. So what I'll do is instead of putting it in 3 different folders and fill up hard drive space, I'll just put it in Rio video files, and then I'll tell people, oh, by the way, you need the homecoming video, and drag it to your desktop. So I'll let you know when files are in there. Right now, DV class, just right now there's not any new stuff in there, just some old stuff. So that's the high school share folder. So this is set up for teachers to put stuff up there to share with you. And I use it, other teachers use it. It's the same share folder you'll find on the Windows computers. Now, I rarely use these 2 views. This one here does like, I call it the path. So that starts with the HS server. This is all the stuff on it. I scroll down here to my Rio folders, and I click on one of them. I go Rio DV class. Then I see where that goes to here, and there's another folder. And it's called, you can trace the path. So if you're doing something where this is useful to get to your stuff, or you like this view, that's another option. And then the last one over, it's called cover flow. That's where you can click on, like this happens to be a video file. Let's see, I can drag across here, and this will take me down the list of what's here. I can click down here. Sometimes this is good for looking at pictures and things if you have a folder of pictures and stuff. Some students really like this view. So, you know, most of the time I don't care what view you use. But I'm just, from experience, I find that the, right now I don't see anything because I clicked probably an empty folder. Let me go back. Okay, I find the, this here good for certain stuff where I'm looking for maybe thumbnails or something if I don't have a lot of stuff. This for when you have a lot of things and you want to get an alphabetical list. And the other 2 I rarely use, but you can use them if you want. If you look over on the left here, maybe you see this in your current one. If you don't, you'll see it. It's got places on your computer. Most of this ignore. And the one that's got your name on it, ignore. I recommend ignoring that one too, because it's only going to be on the local computer, so it's more often than not where you want to go. Now, the most common thing we do here is click desktop. Okay, so if you're in this view and there's desktop, that's usually what we click. It's usually when we're saving stuff, which I'll demonstrate again in a moment. So I'm going to close this here out. So that's just a few things right there. I'm just going to take you through the step of saving something on here real quick. So let's go ahead and open up a Word document. Just open up Microsoft Word. And I'm going to do a couple of things with Word and a couple of things with, then I'm going to go to Safari, and then we'll take a break. So when you open up Word, you could just put practice. I just want to show you how to save, because I've had students, and this could be any type of document. It could be a Photoshop file, it could be a Word document, whatever it may be. And I've had students hit save and have no clue where it goes on the Mac. And sometimes the default settings are not places easy to find if you're new to the Mac. First of all, in Microsoft Word, just a couple of recommendations here. I'm hoping you see all these menus here, but just a little refresher. It doesn't hurt to go to View menu, go to Toolbars and make sure both of those are selected if you're actually using Word. Because sometimes the default options on these computers, one of them aren't, and then you panic. It's like, where's all them tools I'm looking for? The Mac version looks slightly different than the Windows version, but it's more or less the same thing. Another thing on these computers, you have such a high resolution monitor that's not uncommon. You open a file like this, type something, and it's fairly small. You know, even though it's at 100%, it's not real big. So when I'm working in Word, both on my laptop here and your iMacs, it's even a bigger difference. See this up in the middle here where it's got percent? Now some software will have percent down here, and this also has it down here, way at the bottom. But I usually up it, like 125, 150, whatever it may be, and you get a better view. So that's, and also a lot of times students do things where they fill their whole screen with whatever it is they're working on. I usually don't recommend that. If it does do a full screen, which I'm going to click on that, see where it does that? Some people get comfortable with this, so I'm not saying you can't do it. But some people get to where, okay, now I got to see something on my desktop, and I can't see it. It's filled my whole screen. So the easiest way to get out of that is just hit Escape, and that'll bring you back to this here. And as you probably know, you can put your cursor in the bottom right corner and resize this window however you like. Now, if I were on your computer, it's got a pretty big screen, and I'm looking around, most of you seem to have it like this anyway. I prefer it in a way where I could see part of my background. Okay, so if I need to click to other windows or find other files, I don't have to, you know, I can find it easily. Now, a save on here, this is why I want you to go through this with me here real quick, is we're going to go to File, and we're going to hit Save. Now, if you might remember from Computer Lit, Save and Save As, the first time you save, you can use either one. I recommend using Save. Okay? Now, on your computer sometime, I'm not saying this always happens. Maybe it didn't this time, I forget. But sometimes the window looks real small like this. So first step I would do is see this button right here. That will expand it. I don't know why they don't just expand it, but sometime when you're doing things, it'll be like that. Now, a few things I want you to do. First of all, see way down the bottom left where it says Hide Extension. I don't know why, but that's usually the default. We want the extension on there. Okay, so make sure you unclick that. Well, that's the .docx in this case. Then you can give a name to your file. I'm just going to call mine Practice. And the reason you want the extension is there might come a day you share this with a Windows computer, correct? And in Windows, they may not automatically know this is a Word document if you don't have .docx on it. A Mac will, because it's made on a Mac. But Windows, I've been told, may not know that. So if you have the .docx, no problem. Windows will know right away what it is. So make sure you always turn that off, and that's true with other software and other things in here. We always want to have the extension on there. Now, I have expanded. Now, if I want to save to the desktop, which is a common thing I do, I click Desktop over here. Now, here's the thing is, if I click Desktop here and it doesn't appear here, I still got to figure out what do I need to do to get it to appear here. Because whatever's here is where it's going to go. So for some reason I was clicking around and maybe I clicked and for some weird reason this was still the previous thing, then I needed to maybe double click again. Okay? And if desktop ever doesn't appear here, let me know, because it should appear there as an option. Now when you have desktop there, you have it named, you hit save, okay, it will appear now on your desktop. Now you might say, Mr. Rio, I don't want to keep everything all over my desktop, it makes a mess like yours. Well, here's the thing is, you can make folders and put stuff in folders anytime you want. You can put folders inside folders. You could drag this to your school server folder. So you don't have to leave it just in the middle of your desktop. That's like a first step, and it's an easy place to drag it. Now, as you get better with these computers, then you can go straight, and if you want to go in another folder and save it. And, you know, as you get better at working with this, you know, you'll be able to do more things custom. Okay, the last thing we're going to do here, and then we'll take our short break, is we're going to go back up here to the Apple menu, and I'm going to take you somewhere that, other than right now when we're doing it as a class, you have to ask permission to go in here. Okay, and it's called System Preferences. So go right now, you do have permission to open that up, so go ahead and open that up. Now, system preferences have all kind of preferences for this computer. Now, some of these on here are like desktop and screensaver. Never change that. Okay, I'll get very mad if I walk by and see you change it. Now, what you can customize is your web browsers. So we'll talk about that after the break. But if you go into Chrome or Firefox and you want to change the theme and the look and the color and the font and the background, no problem. You're welcome to do that in the web browsers. I just don't want you doing it on the computer itself. Okay? I'm not going to go through what all these things do, but I'm going to take you to one that you're going to be able to make an adjustment right now. Click on the one that's mouse. Now here's what I can't show you. Mine doesn't look like yours because I don't have an Apple mouse plugged in. But yours has a picture of an Apple mouse. It should have it set so the left side of the mouse is, I believe it's called primary, and the right side of the mouse is secondary. Now there's a few settings on there for what's called like tracking and double click. If you want to make an adjustment, you are welcome to do that. If you want to make an adjustment another day, just ask me. Does that make sense? So do you have to make an adjustment to your mouse? No, you don't. Okay, but if you want to try a little different setting, go for it. Now, if you try a different setting and you come back tomorrow or a week from now and you say, Mr. Rio, can I adjust my mouse? I don't like the way it's working. If you ask me, no problem. I'll say, go ahead and adjust your mouse. Because then if I see you in system settings and you're doing that and I just told, you told me, then it's not a problem. But if I see you in system preferences when you're not supposed to be there, then I'm wondering what else you're doing you're not supposed to be doing. Because usually the person that does that will start monkeying with other stuff, and then that creates problems. So that's why I want you to ask. But you are welcome to do that. If you're left-handed, you want to change your primary mouse button from the left to right or any other settings in there. If you ever bring in your own mouse, which you're welcome to do, and you need to set it up for Bluetooth or something, let me know, and I'll help you with that. So that's the mouse settings. Now, the only other thing we may do, and by the way, if you're in the mouse right now, if you click back up here on this got like little dots all over it, they'll bring you back to this here. The only other thing for this class we occasionally need to go to is the sound panel. Now the sound panel has some things about volume and output and things like that. Sometimes we plug other stuff into these computers that involve the input and output and stuff. So you do have volume on your keyboard. So you don't need to go here for normal volume control. But if you need to go here for something down the road that we're doing in this class, just make sure you ask me first before you go into the sound panel. Okay? So everything system preferences, just get permission. If it's something reasonable, no problem. So that's a quick overview of the Mac. And the more you use it and the better you get at it, before long you'll be zipping all over the place on it. I'm going to try to find my screen record right now and turn that off. And let's see. I clicked it and I don't see it. I hope I didn't turn it off too early or something. Well, either way, I'll play with that while we're on break. Now, what can you do on break? You can go to that bookmark sites on Safari and read news and information. No video on that yet. You can check your device, but no games. And you can use a restroom, get a drink, talk quietly, stretch. And we'll do that for about 5 minutes. So it's 8:35. We'll start up again about 8:41. The bathroom and drinks are just the ones right out here. If for any reason someone ever needed to go somewhere else, they got to see me for a pass. Okay, I thought I screen recorded all that, but my little thing isn't out there. I'm wondering if I accidentally clicked it. Okay, my screen reader, if I'm